All right, well, as it says, I'm from the law school, and we have been a little bit slow to get into blended learning, probably the natural conservative nature of lawyers. And so I'm not experienced in it, but I have always had a great interest in technology. I've got iPads, iPhones, lots of computers, and I blame Ian Olney for that, because he taught me, he showed me my first computer a long time ago, but he was my high school maths teacher. So I'm just trying to take the pressure off me by embarrassing you. But he taught me how to program in BASIC a long, long time ago. So since then, I've been interested in technology, and so I've always tried to incorporate it to some extent in my teaching. So I'll show you just a little bit of a modest way that I've tried to do it. I teach criminal procedure and evidence law, which is a core unit, and there are approximately 200 students each semester. And we have a model in the law school where we teach 3-hour seminars a week. So you can imagine that's a fairly expensive model, and we're not going to be able to do that for much longer, I think. So we've tried to introduce a bit of blended learning, and my little effort is a pilot that has aimed to replace 2 weeks only, just as a start, of face-to-face seminar with an online component, fully online component. Okay, the topics that I chose to put into those 2 weeks of online study, I chose them because they're two topics that are not really difficult ones. I have to say that I would struggle with putting all of my unit fully online, because there are some things that I think require some face-to-face. So I would at least be looking at blended learning as a supplement or as a mixture, a mixed mode. In any event, I chose those topics because I thought they were amenable to teaching online. All right. The title of this is about TV courtroom dramas, so I thought I should just show you what I'm talking about, and I will just play you 30 seconds of some Law and Order.
Angela to say hello. I used to see her at Julian's, Mr. Decker's.
Did she ever share her feelings about Mr. Decker with you?
Objection. Calls for hearsay.
Offered for the defendant's state of mind, Your Honor.
Overruled. Go on, Miss Carter. Angela said she wanted to warn me about him. She was having some trouble with her bills. Her daughter is in private school.
I should have mentioned the plot. This is a murder charge, and the person they're talking about is Angela, who's been charged with the murder of Julian Decker, who was a photographer, and she was a model who was often photographed by this photographer, and she was also working for him as a prostitute, and she's been charged with his murder. He was found dead in his photography studio with a pair of scissors in his back. So there's the drama. No. This is just.
No, I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
But on Facebook, I don't watch it.
Yeah.
I can brag back at everybody.
No, just made up, but could easily happen in real life. So I'll just play another 10 seconds of it.
Mr. Decker loaned her some money and told her that she could make it up on the shoot. When she didn't get any work, he told her that she could make it up on her back.
And what was
The
the
accused.
defendant's reaction to that?
Well, she was angry. She told me she felt trapped. She had to pay him and she needed more money.
Thank you. Your witness.
So you've got the idea. We've all seen courtroom dramas, mostly American ones. And so it gave me the idea that I might be able to get the students to watch a bit of TV and learn something. And that's because being a lawyer, watching these programs, I'm always picking them to pieces. I'm always saying that can't happen in court and so on. And I suspect that many of you who in other disciplines have the same issues perhaps when doctors watch House and they say, oh look, it's nothing like the real life, whatever. And so I thought that it might be. The other thing was that students would come to class, and in a unit like criminal procedure and evidence, it's there's some interesting subject matter. It's a very dry, technical, legal topic, but it's interesting subject matter. And students would come with stories. Oh, the police stopped me and they said this, and tell me what happened. Tell me what I need to say to the police. So people have, students have life stories that they want to get explained in this unit. Okay, so why did I introduce it? Well, I introduced these courtroom dramas for the reasons I've just stated, but also because I thought they would be a good starting point. In the past, I've often used these as supplementary materials, but here I've been experimenting using this as a jumping point for the whole unit. And the reason, oops, sorry, I'm not very good at this. The reason, well, obviously because I'm hoping that I'll engage the students. I'm hoping that it will also inject a bit of realism, and I'm also hoping that they will see that a problem has been set up for them to solve, and that then will introduce the technical rules in a way that's somewhat meaningful to them and interesting. It has the advantage also, because most of these courtroom dramas are American, the videos are fertile ground for critical discussion. They do things differently in United States, but they also take a lot of license with TV programs, and usually there are numerous ethical and other legal issues that we can discuss. So, that's a really complicated flowchart, but it looks complicated, but it isn't actually. This is my effort to make all of this watching TV pedagogically justified. So let me just take you through it. That's the little bit where I try to engage the students. And that's where I put the video up the front, because it sets up a problem. And the reason I'm so keen to set up this problem is because I try to do, in a mini way, a model of inquiry-based learning or problem-based learning, which is quite popular in the sciences. Does anybody engage in that in a big way? Okay, well, the gist of it is that you set up a problem, and then the learning is all about solving that problem. And it can be done on a grand scale or on a small scale. Well, I do it very much on a small scale. And that's because, as I said, it's hard to get down into the nitty-gritty of technical rules unless you've got a reason for doing it. And wanting to know why, for example, that piece of evidence was hearsay or wasn't hearsay is maybe a motivator for students to figure out, well, you know, could she object at that point? Was the judge's ruling correct, and so on? Okay. The next bit, obviously, is the learning bit, and this just demonstrates how I try to support the video by these processes. Well, the first bit is to get the students to formulate the questions. Ideally, they'll know nothing about opinion evidence or identification evidence, the topics of the classes, and they will, after watching the video, formulate the questions that they want answers to. Or I'll make it more explicit and say, I want you to consider the evidence in this example and think about its admissibility. So the problem is set up at the start. They can formulate their own questions as well as mine. They sort out what they already know and what they need to know. And once they know what they need to know, they then use all of the other parts of the unit to try to go about getting an answer to that. I asked them to put their questions, their initial questions, in the online journal. I'm sorry, I don't have a laser thing, but you can see the online journal up there. To record their questions there, perhaps discuss them on the discussion board, see if they're coming up with the same kinds of questions as other students. And then eventually they get over to the learning activities proper, where they're guided through reading, they're directed to do research, they do more discussing in the discussion board, they clarify issues in the discussion board, they look at the online text materials I use some online audio such as podcasts, and all of that is supposed to feed into the online journal and the discussion board. So all of it's online. Okay. The next bit of the process is the self-testing, and I use online quizzes for that purpose. They're fairly short, basic quizzes that just allow students to test the understanding through all of those online activities. And if they have understood it, well and good. If they haven't, then they can go back and formulate the questions and start all over again. And they're supposed to go around that circle as many times as they need to before we then assess them. Okay. So just to finish off, because I've only got a couple of minutes, I'll show you a short...
Next time I'm going to buy stock in Kodak.
You might see some issues that come up in this.
You got some. The beard. Here, look, is this the same guy? Let me see something. Come here. Look at this. How's that? Is that better? Right there?
There's been a murder of somebody at a rally,
Or just bad lighting?
and the police are looking for a suspect. And
These
they're
men were
okay.
all photographed at AAC rallies in the past year.
As you can see, they don't all look alike. You recognize any of them?
From these?
Yeah.
You're just going through the motions.
Here we go again.
Darryl Gates here to whoop me good.
Mr. Cook, once we get this guy in custody, you can make all the speeches you want. Until then, just look at the damn pictures.
This one. He lost the beard, but he kept the eyes.
You've seen him before.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, you've got the idea. That's a really good example of how police go about identifying people the wrong way. And hopefully the students will have some questions when they see that clip. Of course, I will have set up the initial question, tell me about the admissibility of any evidence that arises in the video. And what we'll see is that there are a number of issues. Police investigation, improper practices, and race relations came up as well. All stuff that supports the theoretical underpinning of the subject, but also gives the technical rules some context. So I was going to show you how I did this on my view site, but that's probably enough, is it?
We've got 2 minutes.
Okay. Well, it's not very exciting, but one of the problems in this approach is that you have to actually get students to do the sequence that you want. You want them to watch the video first, and in the first few times, students would bypass the video, especially if they had some technical problem, and they would just go and do the readings in the normal way, and perhaps come back, and it sort of defeated the purpose. I wanted them to be engaged. I wanted them to want to answer this question. And so sorry, I'll just get to the way I've tried to get around that is to use the sequential learning model. Okay, so this is the online learning model. Yes. Okay, what they'll see before a little bit of an introduction is very quickly that they can't get past it really until they watch the video. And then once they've watched the video, they then get told what they ought to do next, to jot down their thoughts into their online journal. There's their online journal. Study questions that will then lead them into the reading. There's the reading. And then apply your learning by going back and having a look at the video, introducing another video, and so on. It goes on like that. So, and then the quizzes, they have to, and part of these quizzes are accessible. And I'm hoping that next time around that sequential model will force them into doing the structure that I hope they'll then find useful. So that's it.